Dylan never imagined that something as simple as a rehearsal break could turn into the moment that would expose what fans had suspected for months. The cast was gathered in the indoor studio, preparing for another round of blocking, while Shen Yue stood near the monitors chatting with one of the new supporting actors. She wasn't doing anything unusual, just laughing, smiling, being her normal warm self, but for some reason, that day, it bothered Dylan in a way he couldn't explain. He tried to pretend he wasn't paying attention, pretending to scroll through his phone, pretending to study the script, pretending that the way her laughter echoed across the room didn't instantly draw his eyes to her every few seconds. But the truth was simple, he couldn't stop staring. And even worse, he wasn't subtle about it at all. The moment that later went viral, the moment fans replayed in slow motion, zoomed in, edited, and remixed more times than anyone could count, happened when the supporting actor leaned in slightly too close while showing Shen Yue something on his phone. She laughed again, lightly hitting his arm. It was innocent, completely harmless, but Dylan froze. His eyes narrowed just a little, not angrily, but with that kind of instinctive tension someone gets when they're watching something they wish they weren't. The stylist next to him noticed his sudden stiffness and whispered, "Are you okay?" But Dylan just muttered something like, yeah, it's nothing," even though the truth was written all over his face. What made it hilarious to everyone later was the way Dylan tried to pretend he wasn't watching. He tilted his head down at the script but didn't flip a single page for the next minute. His eyes weren't on the words, they were locked on Shen Yue. Every time she moved, his eyes shifted. When she smiled, he blinked a little too slowly. When the actor leaned closer to her, Dylan's grip tightened on the script so much the papers crinkled. By the time the director called a short break, the crew had already exchanged looks. People noticed. They didn't say anything, but the energy in the room shifted in that unmistakable, "we all see it, but we're pretending we don't" kind of way. Shen Yue, oblivious as ever, walked over to grab a bottle of water. She didn't even see Dylan watching her like a hawk. Well, not until she walked right past him. She greeted him casually. "You okay? You look intense." Dylan didn't mean to say it. He didn't even plan the words. They just fell out. "Who was that guy?" Shen Yue blinked. "You mean Mingho? The new supporting actor?" Dylan nodded, trying to act indifferent, but even he knew his tone failed completely. "You two seem close." Shen Yue laughed, not mockingly, but genuinely surprised. "We just met today. He was telling me about the last project he worked on." "Why?" Dylan's ears turned a shade of pink that the cameras later enhanced in every fan edit. He shook his head quickly. "No reason. Just asking." But Shen Yue tilted her head, studying him with that intuitive awareness she always had when it came to him. "You sure?" "Yeah, of course," he insisted. But the problem was he said it too fast. Too defensive. Shen Yue smiled knowingly before walking off, leaving Dylan standing there, suddenly aware of exactly how ridiculous he must have looked. And unfortunately for him, one of the camera operators had caught the entire exchange, from the moment he stiffened, to the jealous glance, to the awkward confrontation, to the flustered denial. The clip didn't take long to leak. Within hours, it spread everywhere. "He's so jealous, OMG, look at his face." The way Dylan tries to act chill but fails. He's down bad and Shen Yue doesn't even know it. This is the funniest, cutest thing I've ever seen. The internet exploded with slow-motion breakdowns, reactions, and commentary. Fans circled his eyes, zoomed in on his clenched jaw, replayed Shen Yue's confused expression. One fan even edited dramatic background music to Dylan's reaction, while another added a narrator voice saying, "And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the exact moment he lost his mind." But Dylan's jealousy wasn't just funny, it revealed something deeper. Because after the clip went viral, something changed in the way he acted around Shen Yue. He wasn't avoiding her, but he was definitely more awkward, like someone who had been exposed, caught in 4K, and had no idea how to recover. And Shen Yue. She started teasing him. Lightly, carefully, but unmistakably. One day on set, she tapped him with her elbow and whispered, "Don't worry, I won't go talking to guys without your permission." Dylan nearly choked on his water. Another time, she asked the makeup artist loudly, "Do I look okay?" "I need Dylan's approval apparently," and the entire room burst into laughter. But beneath the jokes, there was something warm forming. Something unspoken. Something much bigger than a viral moment of jealousy. Because deep down, everyone could tell. Dylan wasn't jealous because he was annoyed. He was jealous because he cared. He cared more than he was ready to admit. More than he knew how to say. And everyone watching, crew, fans, even Shen Yue, knew this was only the beginning of something much deeper. Dylan didn't even realize he was still standing there in the corridor, watching Shen Yue laugh with another actor. The moment replayed in his head like a scene he never approved of. Her smile, the way she leaned forward to listen, the playful nudge on the arm. It wasn't something unusual on set, but at that moment, something inside him tightened. He didn't want to admit it, but the truth was too loud to ignore. He was jealous. He tried to play it off at first, telling himself he was only concerned about the schedule, or that the scene they were about to shoot was important, or that he needed her for rehearsal. But none of those excuses were true. What bothered him wasn't professional. It was personal. And Shen Yue, completely unaware of the tornado brewing behind her, continued smiling and conversing like nothing was happening. She had no idea Dylan was watching her so intently. A production assistant walked by and whispered to another, "Why is Dylan standing like that? He looks like he's about to charge into battle." Someone else added quietly, "I think he's jealous. Look at his face." The whisper spread quickly, but no one dared to say anything to him. Dylan remained frozen, eyes fixed on Shen Yue until she finally turned around and saw him. She gave him that cheerful wave she always gave. Bright, light, innocent. That wave made everything worse. Dylan walked toward her, trying to look calm, but the stiffness in his steps betrayed him. Shen Yue raised her brows, confused by the sudden tension around him. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. Dylan didn't answer immediately. He just looked at her, like he was trying to figure out how to phrase something he didn't want to admit out loud. His jaw clenched. "You were laughing a lot back there," he said quietly, eyes darting to the actor who had just left. Shen Yue blinked, surprised by the tone. "We were rehearsing lines." "I know," he said, but his expression said otherwise. She tilted her head, studying him. "Are you okay?" Dylan exhaled sharply and looked away, trying to regain his composure before anyone noticed. But it was already too late. Half the set had seen enough to know something was definitely going on. When the director called for the next scene, neither Dylan nor Shen Yue moved. There was a silence between them, not awkward, but charged. Shen Yue touched his arm lightly. "Are you sure you're okay?" she repeated, this time softer. Dylan finally met her eyes. "Just don't disappear like that," he muttered. It wasn't what he wanted to say, but it was all he could let slip out. Shen Yu's lips curved into a small, amused smile. "Dylan, were you jealous?" He opened his mouth to deny it, but no words came out. That silence was enough. Shen Yue laughed quietly, not mockingly, but warmly, like she finally understood something she had been curious about for a long time. She leaned closer and whispered, "You could have just said you wanted my attention." Dylan's ears turned red instantly. Before he could respond, the director shouted, "Positions. We're starting." Shen Yue walked ahead, but before she stepped onto set, she glanced back at him and gave a small smile, gentler than the one she gave the other actor, softer than anything he had seen earlier. Only for him. That smile melted every ounce of jealousy inside Dylan, replacing it with something even more dangerous, something he wasn't sure he could hide anymore. Even the staff watching from afar murmured amongst themselves, "This is not acting anymore. Nope. This is real. They're done for. They can't hide this." And in that moment, Dylan knew one thing for certain. Whatever he felt for Shen Yue wasn't something he could bury under professionalism anymore. It was too real, too strong, and too obvious to everyone but her. Or at least, that's what he thought. Because Shen Yue, smiling to herself as she fixed her hair for the scene, already knew. She had always known. But today, for the first time, Dylan finally realized it too. Dylan didn't expect the clip to spread that fast. By the time he woke up the next morning, millions of fans had already dissected every frame of his reaction. The comments were endless, some teasing him, some defending him, and some simply laughing at how obvious he had been. But what Dylan didn't expect was Shen Yu's reaction. That afternoon, they arrived on set at almost the same time. Shen Yue greeted the staff cheerfully, as she always did, but when she saw Dylan, her smile curved just a little differently. Not mocking, not confused, just knowing. It made Dylan's heart drop. She walked right past him, then suddenly stopped and turned around. "Did you sleep well?" she asked. Dylan nodded, avoiding her eyes. "Yeah. Why?" Shen Yue shrugged casually. "No reason. Just wondering if anything kept you up last night." He froze. She definitely saw the clip. And she was enjoying this way too much. Shen Yu's grin widened. She stepped closer, just close enough to make him swallow his breath. "You should have told me you were such a good observer," she whispered. "You notice everything I do." Dylan felt his ears burn. "I wasn't observing," he muttered. "I was looking after you. Like a colleague." Shen Yue tilted her head. "Just a colleague?" Dylan's silence was loud. But before he could form an excuse, the director called them in for rehearsals. Oddly enough, the scene they were filming that day was a jealousy confrontation. The male lead caught the female lead with someone else. The timing couldn't have been more ironic. During rehearsal, Shen Yue delivered her lines naturally, but Dylan kept stumbling. He messed up cues, forgot lines, even entered from the wrong direction once. The crew teased him playfully, but Dylan only grew more frustrated. Shen Yue leaned toward him and whispered, "You know, people act better when they stop pretending." He blinked. "Pretending what?" "Pretending they don't care." The line wasn't in the script. It wasn't part of rehearsal. It wasn't even whispered loudly. But it hit harder than anything she could have said. From that moment on, something shifted. Their chemistry, already strong, suddenly felt deeper, warmer, more personal. The director kept calling it magic. The stylist whispered that the air around them felt different, and the camera absolutely loved them together. Between takes, Shen Yue started teasing him more. Whenever he got quiet, she nudged him playfully. Whenever he looked away, she tried to catch his eyes. Whenever he avoided a topic, she brought it up again. And each time, Dylan reacted exactly like fans imagined, awkward but soft, flustered but trying to hide it, gentle but completely transparent. Later that evening, when filming wrapped, Shen Yue approached him again. "Hey," she said softly, "you didn't answer my question from earlier." Dylan blinked. "Which one?" Shen Yue looked straight into his eyes, not joking anymore. "Why were you jealous?" He inhaled sharply. This was the moment he'd been avoiding. For the first time all day, he didn't look away. "Because it wasn't just a random actor," he said quietly. "It was someone holding you. And I didn't like that." Shen Yu's breath caught for a second. She opened her mouth to respond, but the lights on the set suddenly shut off. The crew was packing up, calling them over, breaking the moment. Shen Yue looked at him one last time. "This conversation isn't over," she whispered. And then she walked away, leaving Dylan standing there with the realization that the jealousy fans laughed about wasn't just funny anymore. It was real, and he had finally admitted it.